Hello, Hayes. I'm having some trouble dealing with my upcoming abortion, and I need someone to talk about it with. For starters, though, English is not my first language, so I'd like to apologize for any mistakes I make in this letter. I'm 25, and my fiance and I are getting married next year, and we bought a house specifically to have kids in. We've both finished our education, are financially secure, and we really like to hang out with my toddler niece. So on paper, having a baby is kind of perfect, but I'm just not ready to have a kid, and that feels so messed up to me. I feel selfish, and I don't know how to work through this. I had the misfortune of having symptoms very early, so I had to deal with discomfort and nausea for almost a week and a half before I could take the test. And even though I have an IUD with an above 99% effectiveness, I think a part of me knew. It was just too different and too specific for me not to know. And Hayes, even though I'm the one my friends usually go to with really heavy things, I suck at reaching out for myself. I tried to talk with them before I even took the test, but I was scared to seem like I was making a mountain out of a molehill. So instead of being honest and saying, hey, I think I'm pregnant and I'm having some trouble, I ended up going with the self-deprecating approach. I said something stupid like, I obviously can't be pregnant because of my IUD, but I am having these textbook symptoms, haha. So the response I got was like, girl, I get it. I hate those overthinking sessions about pregnancy. Of course my friends didn't clock that I was scared. I wrote it up like I was making fun of the situation. They didn't know I needed to talk about the feelings. I've also always been a little faster than my friends. I don't want to use the word mature because I believe we all mature in some aspect all the time. But while they matured by traveling the world, I preferred to study and earn money to buy my house. So while it's not new that I'm struggling to get perspectives about my situation, this feels more lonely than it usually does. I tried talking about it more openly with my sister before I took the test, too. She's already a mother and currently pregnant again, and she did listen, but I felt almost guilty talking about it with her. And when she said, I hope you get whatever answer you may secretly be hoping for, I just couldn't talk about it with her again. I don't know if that makes any sense or if it's important at all. I guess it's just nice to get out. My fiance is great and supportive, but I don't think he understands what it is to have these things happen to your body, which again makes sense. We have talked and he has listened, but he fixates more on the fact that I don't want a baby right now and that it's easy to get an abortion, so everything's great and the problem is solved. And it is really easy to get an abortion in my country, and the stigma's really not that bad about it. So yeah, I'm just gonna get one. Even though I'm not having any second thoughts about this, I feel so uncomfortable. I'm fiercely pro-choice, and if this was one of my friends, I'd be supporting them and reminding them that it isn't even a child yet. But I feel strangely protective about the small clump of cells, even though I know I'm getting rid of it. Not in a I'm changing my mind way, but in a I can't bring myself to eat anything pregnant women can't eat kind of way. Like, why am I taking care of something that will never even develop to the point of that being important? A part of me does think this is silly. Like I mentioned, I want kids in a year or two. I love kids, and we have the space and a life where it makes sense. But it wasn't the plan, and I can't let go of my plan. Is that silly of me? I don't know why I'm asking. I'll probably get the abortion before any chance of hearing back from you, and I'm not going to regret it. But I am struggling to come to terms with all of this anyway, it seems. I keep thinking about that one saying parents always repeat, kids never come at an opportune time. Am I stupid for clinging to my preferred order for all of this? Am I really this shallow? That looking amazing in my wedding dress and being able to drink and eat all the things I want is more important to me right now? Again, I don't know why I'm asking. I know I'm going to do this, and I know I'm not stupid. I just need someone to look at all of this and talk about it. Yours, accidentally ahead of schedule. Real quick before I dive into the advice section, I know that this topic of abortion there's a lot of opinions about it. To be really clear up front, what I am not doing in this episode is debating whether abortion is good or bad. I am not telling the writer that I think she should or should not go through with this decision. What I am here to do is to talk with her about her feelings, to honor what I thought was really beautifully written, the complexity of what she's feeling, what she's going through. I'm here to talk about that. I'm here to sit with her in that. And I hope that if you listen, that is what you are here to do too. Okay, on to the episode. I have to tell you, I have never received a letter and responded to it as quickly as I did this one. This came in my inbox this morning. It's like maybe it was 8:15 this morning, Los Angeles time, and I was reading through my inbox to pick the letter and pick the next couple of weeks' letters, and this one came in the middle of me planning. And maybe this has only happened once before where I've answered a letter rather quickly, but this takes the cake. And I'm answering it quickly, not because I am going to sway you in either direction. You sound like you have made up your mind, and I trust you. and I want you to trust you. But I wanted to answer it. It felt, I don't know, it felt kismet to me to receive your letter and to see you say that you don't think you're going to hear back from me. I wanted to answer it. I felt called to answer it right now. And I'm grateful for the letter. And I'm grateful for the honesty that you are talking about these such complicated feelings. And I want to tell you that I don't think you're silly. I don't think you're selfish. Everything you are saying makes sense to me. Everything you are saying makes so much sense to me. I have not been in this situation. I have never been pregnant. So I can't relate to the specific choice you are making, but oh, how I can relate and understand and empathize with how complicated it is when you can be sure of something and also have that sureness come with a dose of sadness, a large dose of sadness and regret and remorse and confusion. And you right now, man, are faced with quite a lot of that. Where should we begin? Where should we even begin? Okay, first of all, I know you said English is not your first language. I think you have absolutely beautiful English, and I admire and I appreciate you writing to me in the language that I speak instead of your first language. I don't know how often you are speaking English, but I was really impressed. I was really impressed and just wanted to maybe throw that out there too, that you don't need to apologize for your English. Your English is excellent, and nobody who speaks more than one language should ever be apologizing for. I should be the one apologizing that I don't speak another language. So let me say that too. Okay. The predicament doesn't even seem like an appropriate word. What you are facing is something that I've talked about with so many of my married friends. And now I'm a little bit older. The conversation has shifted a little bit, but like you, just because you are at an age and in a financial situation where you could have a baby, you could logistically have a baby and care for a baby and provide and pay for a baby, that doesn't mean you are ready to have the baby. And I don't think it doesn't mean you're ready to have the baby. And but I think so many women feel that pressure. So many women feel that pressure inside themselves. They feel it from family members. They feel it from society, that just because you've checked off some of these other boxes, it means that you should be ready. And it means that should this happen to you, that you should be ready to seize the day. And I don't think it's not black and white. It is not black and white like that. I don't think it's selfish that you are not ready yet, but I do see how the fact that you could on paper do this, I see how that could compound the grief that you might feel about this thing coming into your life at a time when you're not ready, because I think that there is grief in that too. You wrote so much about your plan. You didn't plan to get pregnant now. And if you want to have a child, and you and your soon-to-be husband want to have a child together, this is not the way I imagine you wanted to do it, having to make a choice like this. So these feelings of selfishness and confusion, of course you're feeling those things, because the plan has already been, you talked about how the plan would be altered by having the baby. Your plan has been altered by getting pregnant. The plan has already been altered. And I want you to hold space for the fact that things have already not gone the way that your brain thought they would. And there's grief in that too. And from what I can gather about you, my love, is that you are a planner. You said your friends were traveling while you were working and saving to buy the house, and you bought the house. I think that's such an admirable trait. You and I are probably different in that way. But it sounds to me like you are a reliable person. I imagine you have a 5-year plan. And I know it, while I can't relate to while I am not the same in the planning sense, I am certainly the same in the, once my brain has attached to a story about my life, attached to a plan, right? A plan is just a story, isn't it? It's really hard for me to then stray. So I can imagine feeling like you. I can imagine feeling like this isn't my plan and I don't want to stray from my plan. I want to talk about the friends for a moment. I'm so proud of you for trying. I don't want you to be too mean to yourself for trying in the self-deprecating way at first, because I'm proud of you for trying. I think so many people can relate to the feeling of being a really good listener, being the one who can handle the tough stuff from everyone else. But then when it comes to you being really vulnerable about the things that are truly hard for you in your life, you might put a wall up. I was actually just talking about that with my therapist today, that one of my things is I'm pretty vulnerable about a lot of stuff, but as soon as it's sometimes when people try to get, as soon as someone's getting real close to the real sources of my pain in my real life, a wall goes up. And it doesn't always feel intentional. It is a protective mechanism that I guess I developed when I was very young. I'm working on it. But it's hard to be vulnerable about there's such a scope of vulnerability, and it's hard sometimes to be vulnerable about something like this, something that is so close to the chest and such a loaded topic also. It sounds like you do have supportive friends who feel the same way about this topic as you do, which I'm grateful that you have people around you who theoretically will be supportive to the decision that you make. But it's hard, and I don't blame you for taking that approach. I'm laughing not because it's funny, but because sometimes it's so hard to say what we mean. It's so hard to say what we mean and to ask for what we need. And I do this hoping someone can read my mind often, and people can't read your mind. If one of my close friends came to me, I'm thinking about if one of my close friends came to me and was worried about they were pregnant, I think I would probably ask them some follow-up questions, and I probably actually in favor of myself, I would probably be like, well, could you be pregnant? And maybe that's everybody listening now, if you ever have a friend come to you and make some self-deprecating jokes about thinking they're pregnant, now we know that maybe they secretly want us to ask the follow-up so they can tell us that actually, Hayes, I am kind of freaking out, and maybe it's a possibility. Because to your point, birth control is 99% effective, but there is the 1%. There is the 1%. And your sister. And your sister. I hope you get whatever answer you may secretly hope for. It is a cryptic thing to say. And I imagine what's the way that how can we interpret that in another way, if there is another way to interpret it? I imagine she was trying to be comforting. So I think maybe the better thing to say, and maybe this is what she meant, is it's going to work out the way it's supposed to. However, I can see how it feels, though, like she's saying, hopefully you're not pregnant if you don't want to be pregnant, and hopefully you're pregnant if you do want to be pregnant. This is really what it is. I think to help you articulate why that maybe didn't sit so well, what she said didn't leave room for the fact that you might be pregnant and you might not have this baby. Sorry if that took me a minute. Sorry if I was a little slower there to come to that realization. Maybe you knew that the whole time. Her response and the way she was supporting you didn't leave room for the complicated stuff. It didn't leave room for your decision. It took the decision away from you in that statement. Because you do have a decision, and the decision is yours. And isn't it funny how, sometimes people say things, I say things too, the nature of human communication is that we'll say things sometimes, and we might have a reaction to something that someone says to us. And we don't even know in the moment why it doesn't feel good because it's happening so instantaneously. But the phrase is burned into our brain, right? When they stamp you, when they burn you in the in the movies? It is in the fraternities. Whatever. I have a near photographic memory for fucked up things people say to me. And I feel bad sometimes even for calling them fucked up because I'm sensitive. I'm also very intuitive, so I don't always think I'm being sensitive. Sometimes someone did say something that was fucked up. I'm gonna own it. People have said some fucked up things to me, and I remember every word. I don't forget. I just don't forget. Maybe it's the writer in me. I remember these things and I'm like, oh, you bet I'm going to use that in some dialogue one day. You're going to find that in my novel in 20 years. And they probably won't remember, because oftentimes when people say things that are fucked up, they don't mean it in a fucked up way. They don't hear the judgment in their voice. But I remember it. And sorry, I don't want to... I don't think your sister was trying to be mean. I don't think your sister was trying to be not supportive, but I understand how that statement, you walked away from that feeling like, wow, can't talk to her about this. I don't have my friends to talk about it with. They don't get it. And of course that feels lonely. Of course that feels lonely. And I think maybe this is... Part of this feels lonely, I also think, because it is lonely. And even having the support of people around you, this experience is between you. This experience is one that is happening inside of you. And even other people who are there for you, who have had their own abortions, I think some of this is just, it's inherently a lonely experience. And it's normal for this to feel lonely. I think lonely is one of the descriptions of the time. And as much as you can buckle up for that, not buckle up for it, but be prepared for it. And I hope that talking it through with me today also helps you feel less lonely. And maybe some listeners who have been in a similar situation can share their stories, and that can make you feel less lonely. I do think sometimes that hearing other people's stories is what brings some comfort and community in lonely times. But the loneliness makes sense to me. I don't want, though, for those experiences you had with your friends and then with your sister to shut you off from asking for help now or looking for support now. I understand why it would. I understand why you wouldn't want to do it, why you wouldn't want to talk about it after those experiences you had. But I think you need more. What I want for you is more support than you're going to get from me, and more support than you're going to get from your fiance. I want you to have many outlets. And I think it's important to consider who you're going to for support. Because sometimes no support is better than the wrong support. And that's also tough to hear. What would it be like for you to tell your sister? You know your sister better now. It sounds like you haven't told your sister since you found out you were pregnant. Maybe before you reach back out to some people for help, it could be, listen, it sounds to me like you know what you want to do. And as I'm reading your letter, there isn't really even a clear question for me. You're not asking me, should I do this or should I not do it? The question I'm gleaning is, am I normal for feeling this way? This way being chaotic, conflicting? But I think there's an undertone here of like, it's not, am I making a mistake? That doesn't feel right for me to say that you're questioning whether you're going to make a mistake. But I can feel that worry in you. And I think that worry is normal. I think that even when we make confident choices, there is worry that we're not going to be happy with that choice. And I think that's normal. You said, I'm not having any second thoughts about this. You say, I'm not having any second thoughts about this. And then in your letter, you write about your worries. I want to confirm for you that I don't think being worried and I don't think being silly means you're having second thoughts. It might, but it's not a 100%. You are allowed to feel every emotion in the emotion dictionary about this choice. You're allowed to. And I want to throw out there too that you might have this abortion and you might feel sad about it. You might feel great grief about it. You might wonder what would have happened had you not had this abortion. That is all normal, and it is a part of your story now. This experience is part of your story now, and I know you're clinging to your plan, but your plan has already changed. And I hope for you that cannot be scary, but maybe it can be freeing. Maybe it can free you up to see this decision in a new light, because you're not the abortion is not gonna, I don't think getting the abortion means you get to go back to the plan entirely, because this will change you. I have to imagine this will change you. Because I don't know if it changes everybody. I don't know if getting an abortion changes everybody. But based on how thoughtful you are and how sensitive you are and how kind and interesting and dynamic you are, I think this is going to change you. I think this experience already has changed you. And your plan is going to be different now because you are different now. And that's the thing about plans is we are intercepting shit constantly in this life. And some of the stuff that's coming at us more clearly changes us than others. But this is going to be, I have to imagine, this is going to be one of the things that forever changes your story. There's a part of me reading, when you write how you feel really protective of the small clump of cells and you find yourself not wanting to eat things that a pregnant woman can eat. Gosh, that is so vivid. It's so painful. That made me feel really, I want to be clear, I'm not pitying you. It doesn't make me feel sad. It doesn't make me feel bad for you, but it made me sad. It made me sad to... It made me sad because, again, I think that what you're going through is really hard. I don't think there's an easy choice. And I think that is your body and your instinct's way of not telling you what to do, but of maybe honoring how complicated and how hard this is. It's allowed to be complicated and hard. Why am I taking care of something that will never even develop to the point of that being important? My girl, you said that your English is your second language. What a gorgeous line. If we're just talking about the writing of it all, what a gorgeous line. You're a beautiful writer. I am curious about the planner in you. It wasn't the plan and I can't let go of my plan. Is it silly? I think it's not silly, but I do think this is something that you might need to loosen your grip on as life goes on. I'm not sure if this is the first major unexpected thing to pop up in your life, but I think that there will be more things like this. And sometimes, right, I'm taking this specific pregnancy and your choice about the abortion out of it. Like sometimes loosening our grip on things is what we need most. Sometimes allowing our lives to unfold the way they are unfolding is the best choice and is what we need. And I would hate for you to live your life so strictly by a plan that you miss out on some serendipity. That isn't me saying that I think you should have this baby if you don't want the baby, because I don't think you should have a baby that you are not ready for. I don't think you should have a baby that you don't want yet. And that's saying kids never come at an opportune time. You said parents always say it. Kids never come at an opportune time. And the saying that I'm familiar with is similar. It's slightly different, which is like, there's never a perfect time to have kids. I guess it's the same thing. In my brain before I said it, they had like different meaning. Friends as I've talked about my own thinking about getting pregnant and when I might want to do that, a good friend of mine has also said, like, there sort of comes a time when you decide you're ready. And like, you can't really plan it perfectly. So once you're ready, it's then there's never the best time. There's always stuff is always going to be complicated. I think that's true, but I think a key component to that is that you have to be ready. Like, maybe you're never going to be fully ready. It's never going to feel exactly like, yep, something's clicked and now I'm ready to be the mom and I'm ready for my life to change forever. Though I guess maybe for some people that's what happens. But there is such a thing as not being ready, And I think it's very personal to decide on that spectrum where you are and when the right time for you is to get pregnant. It's also probably so personality specific. Some people maybe are indecisive about everything. And so, of course, then they're going to be indecisive about this. And they just have to trust that when it's time and make a decision despite not being ready. I don't know if that applies to you. I don't know if kids never come at an opportune time applies to you. If you feel in your heart of hearts that this is not the right time for you and your fiance to have a baby. I also think that phrase is so in favor of having kids that it's sort of, it feels like a little brainwashy to me almost, which is a really extreme reaction, I know. But something about it doesn't leave room for the fact that like some people don't want kids. And yes, there's never a perfect time, but some people don't want kids. And I don't know why. The phrase just, it does apply to you, and I guess it doesn't. Can I think of something better to say about that stupid phrase? I just want you to know that the phrase exists, and I think it's true, but I don't think it's something that you have to apply by, that you have to like take as Bible right now. And you're calling yourself shallow? You don't sound shallow to me. You said, am I shallow that I want to eat and drink and look amazing in my wedding dress? Maybe if this was just about the wedding dress. Is this just about the wedding dress? I don't think it is. To me, this is about you not feeling ready. But maybe this is a worthy question for you to explore. Why don't you feel ready? Is it just because it doesn't align with your plan? Because I hear you. What's the difference between now and a year from now? It's actually a very legitimate question. What's the difference between now and a year from now? For you, I don't care about the answer, but do you have a clear answer? Do you have a clear answer on why you don't want to do this? And as I'm saying that, though, I question myself because I resent the idea that like a woman needs to really clearly be able to say why she doesn't want a child. I don't think you do. Like, not everybody has to be able to explain their feelings or their thinking so perfectly. That's not a wish of everybody's, and it's not a necessity for everybody. So while I'm suggesting to you that maybe you come up with this for yourself, I also resent that I'd even suggest that. I feel complicated about it. But maybe to answer your own questions about yourself, am I shallow? Am I selfish? Well, you tell me. Because maybe it's shallow and selfish to say, oh, I'm just going to try to get pregnant in a year so that I can have the wedding I want. Maybe that's shallow and maybe that's selfish to you. Maybe to somebody else it wouldn't be. It's the hard thing is that I believe that these are questions only you can answer. But holistically, the complicated nature of what you're doing and feeling all makes sense. I imagine I would feel just like you. I imagine I'd feel so many of the same things that you feel. And I think what's scary is there's, once this happens, you don't know how you're going to feel. And I often feel a lot of fear and anxiety about like the pain on the other side. And I have trust in my life that I will always figure it out and I'll always be okay. And any amount of pain is, I can survive it and I can feel through it. But it's still scary not knowing what's going to be there. I don't know if this would fall under ambiguous grief, but I think about it a lot, like with my grandma, who, I've already lost to Alzheimer's, but she's still alive. And the grief of that experience has been unraveling for years. And it's sort of like a shallow, it sort of feels empty and it hits me in waves, but it's sort of like an empty feeling. But knowing that she is going to die at some point, God fucking, I hope soon, so that it doesn't have to go on forever. She is going to die, and I have no idea what that grief will feel like. Could it possibly be worse than what I've already felt? Will it be relief? It'll probably be all of those things. And this experience you have the grief of right now, and then you have the grief of later, and we don't know what it's going to be. But you will be okay, but I don't want you to be fooled into thinking that any of these decisions that you're going to make are going to be easy and smooth and, is binary the right word here? Like, I don't want you to think that just because you're sure about the abortion, that you're going to have the abortion and then you're never going to think about it again. Based on the depth of this letter, you don't strike me as that kind of person that can just clear your slate and never consider it. I don't know if it's going to haunt you. I hope it doesn't haunt you. I hope that whatever choice you make, you can be at peace with. But peace is sometimes a bumpy road. Peace is sometimes a bumpy road. Gosh, I want to give you a hug. Is that okay? I want to give you a big hug. I want to give you such a big hug. Oh. Man, I hope that this has never happened before where I get the letter in the morning and the episode comes out the next day. So yes, you will hear from me theoretically before you do this. And I hope that at the very least, this gives you some sense of comfort in knowing that you're not alone. You have my support, and I'm here for you through this letter, and I hope you feel it. And I know that many of our listeners will be there for you too. Okay. Accidentally ahead of schedule. I love you. Gosh, I'm racking my brain right now to see what else I'm forgetting saying, but I'm definitely forgetting things, and that's just the nature of what this is, and we have to say goodbye. I hate goodbyes. Oh, your fiance. Do I want to say anything about him? LOL that I just didn't mention your fiance. LOL. I feel like this is such a man's way of thinking. Like, oh, here's the problem, here's the solution. Brian is very similar. Like, let's identify the problem, let's identify the solution, and let's move on with it. I'm laughing at that. So everything's great, problem solved. Like, such a man way of thinking. Not just men, but lots of men. I think there are many different ways that your fiance can show up for you here. I wonder what it might be like, and this might be a horrible suggestion. And you might hate it, but I wonder if the two of you together can... Look, the grief that you have and the grief that he has are likely going to be different. One reason being this is happening in your body, and it's not affecting him right now. I wonder if the two of you together can have some sort of like grief ritual. That's not maybe the right word, but like, what can the two of you do together to honor this change that has happened? And maybe together you can figure out what that looks like. I think he might be really moved even reading this letter. I think that one of the great things about writing a letter to me, or just to anybody, to yourself, about what you're going through, is that it can be something you use to talk about how you feel with other people. It might be hard for him to understand some of the complexity of what you're describing, but that doesn't mean he's going to be unable to. Sometimes even with my own husband, who is extremely sensitive and I think very emotionally intelligent, like, my brain and my emotions are a crazy place. Like, we are built differently. And it sometimes takes a minute for me to explain to him what I'm feeling and how I need support and how my feelings are different than his, and how we work differently. And, we've done this over the course of our almost 12 years together. It might take some effort for you to feel fully seen by him in this way. But you deserve to feel seen by your fiance in this process. And as I was saying in the beginning about the loneliness thing, I want you to also have some acceptance over the fact that there will be a part of this that is always just yours, and that he will never understand, and he doesn't need to. I don't know if we need to. We walk the road with people in our lives. We walk the road of life with everybody in our life, but at the end of the day, we also walk it alone. Both of those things can be true. Nobody will ever know what it's exactly like to be me, but that doesn't mean that I'm closed off from the world and that I have it worse than everybody else and nobody gets it. The truth is that no one else will know exactly what it feels like to be me and to be in my body and experiencing my feelings. But you don't need to understand exactly what someone's going through to be there for them and to love them. And what I hope for you is that this individual experience you're having doesn't push you away from the people in your life. I hope that they can show up for you, though, in the way you deserve, and that you all can practice patience with each other. I guess I just want you to be open with your fiance, give him room to grow and learn, give him that space, give him some direction, and be patient if it takes a minute. He might not get it right away, but I think he will and he can. I'm trusting that you're choosing somebody that you feel understands you and gets you. So if he doesn't get it, if you don't feel like you understand this right away, I want you to trust that he might, and he will. Not that he might, he will. He will. Okay. On that note, I think we've hit our points, and I love you. And please, if you want to write back. If not, do not. I understand. I hear back from people about, probably a little bit less than half the time. I can imagine that this is sometimes an intense experience. Sometimes people might not even listen to the podcast. Who knows? Maybe they write the letter and they don't even know the podcast exists. They just write it to write it. That probably doesn't happen all that often. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a letter that you'd like to write, you can send it to hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. If you listen to the podcast, it's always helpful in the letter if you tell me that. I'm much more likely to answer it if I know that you are a weekly listener. Okay, and I'll be right back with part 2 to talk about the television show that everybody's talking about, Love Story, JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. We got to talk about Love Story, the show about JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. The show was recommended to me by one of my dear friends, Rebecca, and I am really enjoying the show. So let's say that up front. I do think it's stupid. I do think a lot of the writing is bad, but I am really enjoying it. It feels nostalgic New York to me. I also am really interested in the Kennedys, though this is part of the controversy here. Is like, I think we have to view these guys as characters, but hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. The fashion is great. You're watching a really what I think is kind of toxic love story unfold. It's good. It's easy TV. And I do love, I love the fashion in it. I actually love seeing the Calvin Klein character. Carolyn was an executive at Calvin Klein, and I really enjoyed seeing the depiction of her career grow. Sad to see her walk away from the job, but I'm loving the whole Calvin Klein arc of it all. So I am not, I'm not like up to date. I feel like there are some people who are really obsessed with Kennedy lore. I was not really one of those people, but I have always been interested in the Kennedys and saddened by the tragedies that have struck their family. I'm a huge Jack Schlossberg fan. All of that to say, I watched the show late. Like when the show came out, I wasn't hunkering to watch it. I really only watched it at the recommendation of my friend Rebecca because she suggested I do it, and I like all of her recommendations. I have a couple of issues, I guess, with the show, and that make me feel really conflicted about watching it. One is just the nature of watching something that exploits a tragedy and that exploits real people's lives. Now, part of it was hearing Jack say in an interview, Jack Schlossberg say that his family doesn't like the show, doesn't approve of the show. So that always, when the living family members disapprove of the entertainment being made about their family, that always gives me an icky feeling about consuming it. But listen, I'm not holier than thou. I am still consuming it. Let me be clear. But he said in the interview, he goes, let's be clear, it's capital F fiction. And I've been thinking a little bit about that and how when we're watching TV about real people, are we consciously thinking that this is real, even though we know that this isn't a documentary? This is a scripted TV show. I think our brains are still associating it with real people. I found myself doing it, being like, oh, their relationship is toxic. Their relationship was toxic. But am I talking about the characters, or am I attributing what I'm seeing to the lives of real people? So I've been trying to consciously, as I'm watching, tell myself that this isn't real. But I don't know if that's more dehumanizing. Is it more dehumanizing to say it's not real when these are based on real people? Because I'm finding myself kind of appalled by some of the behavior. Let's say that for a second. JFK Jr. does some stuff that I feel like I would walk away from. Or I actually don't know if I would walk away. Maybe I wouldn't walk away. I might be doing exactly what Carolyn was doing. But he does. There's an episode. Does this spoil something? I guess if you're interested in watching the show and you really don't want to know anything that happens, then maybe don't listen to this, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine to listen to this. He invites her to a party. He's like, come to a party to meet some of my family, to come meet some family members, meet my sister. What he doesn't tell her is that the party is his sister's birthday, and it is an intimate sit-down dinner at Caroline Kennedy's house. I mean, you know how the Kennedys are going to throw birthday parties. This is an intimate waiter service seated thing. I would be so humiliated if I showed up to a new boyfriend's sister's birthday party and it was clear that I was uninvited. Now, granted, Caroline did do a little bit of a bitchy thing, I think, by being like, let me go tell Martin that wasn't Martin the name of the butler in Parent Trap? Let me go tell Martin that we need an extra seat. Caroline didn't need to do that. The kinder thing would have been to pretend that Carolyn was invited the whole time. I know, Caroline, confusing. But that red flag. Then when he gets that anonymous letter, at some point defaming Carolyn's character and saying she does all of these horrible things. And instead of, he confronts Carolyn and is like, who are you? Do I even know you? He believes the letter instead of her. That would have been another red flag to me. There's just lots of things he does that are so juvenile to me that I think are inexcusable for a grown man. Now, he did have it's inexcusable as a grown man. And man, that the last episode, the wedding episode, Carolyn's mother, it's sad. It's sad. The whole thing is sad, and it feels sort of like tragedy, trauma porny to watch it. And I'm very curious how the show's it is airing weekly. I'm curious how the show is going to handle their deaths in the end. The show, I'm curious how they're going to handle that. It's just sad. There's a whole sad tone to the show to me that is definitely people are talking about that. But then I feel, what's the word? I feel sort of like a whiplash, because then I get on TikTok and it's like, let's get ready Carolyn Bessette style. And like all it is Carolyn Bessette fashion. And so many people have said this already. So it's a broken record. The thing that is, I think, appealing about her style is not the 90s of it all. It's just that she looks effortlessly like herself, that she has a personal style. If that pared down minimalist, sleek shapes is not your style, you're not going to look like her. I also think that she would absolutely hate this. It's sort of sad. A clear characteristic of Carolyn, the person, it seems, is that she really wanted to be private. And then here this show is. It feels off. But here I go again. Like, the show is about a real person. I don't think we can deny that. So I find myself feeling empathetic towards the real person, but then also trying to remember that they are dramatizing for TV. They are dramatizing for TV. And this whole thing has made me think a little bit about myself too. And I think about my own writing, and as a person who does write nonfiction and who does have hopes to write creative nonfiction about myself and some of my experiences, like, would I want my work to be optioned for film or TV? I think yes. I think I would want my work to be optioned, right? And if you're unfamiliar, film and TV production companies can purchase your writing. They can purchase the right. It's called an option to take your IP and create it into a TV or film. Now, it doesn't always mean it's made. So let's say I write a book and it gets optioned for $1 million. I'm pulling that number out of my ass. I think that sounds really high. I highly doubt that. I don't know if anything gets optioned for that much money. Maybe it does. Maybe mine will. Why not me? If it gets optioned for $1 million, they get the option for, I think they could have the option for 10 years. But if it doesn't get made in the 10 years, then the option can get purchased again. I don't know if it would if it didn't get made after 10 years. But as you might know, I think it's really hard to get TV and movies made. What would I want the terms to be? If a piece of my life was made into scripted entertainment, how would I feel about people watching it and assuming it was all true? Or if I felt like something was misrepresented, how would I feel if people took it to be fact? And you know what the craziest thing is, though? Even the best writing and the most honest writing about a real experience, everyone's going to interpret that differently anyway. So even if I write a book about something I've experienced, and to me, while I'm writing it, it is true and it is honest, and I have made myself abundantly clear, other people will see it differently. They might take something away from it that I did not say or that I didn't mean to say. Maybe I didn't express myself clearly everywhere. And I myself later might reread what I said and not feel like it was the most honest way of saying it. I might have different feelings about the thing that I wrote. And then to see it on screen, I'm just like, I'm imagining, if I write about something now, let's say that happens 10 years ago or something, I publish it now, and then a movie gets made about what I think about it right now. When I'm 40, I might have a different take on it. When I'm 50, I might have a different take on it. And how would I feel seeing my name, Alexandra Hayes up there, being represented in a way that it doesn't relate to me anymore? I think you have to, if you're in this like sort of public facing world, or even if not, even if you are a more private person, but you write something and your story gets told, there has to be some level of disconnect, right? And that disconnect, though, does also seem at odds with authenticity. It's like, how do I both be authentic and be myself while also knowing and accepting that what you see is never exactly what I am? it's sort of like you need the coping mechanism of accepting that in a way, what I present is always a caricature of my real experience, right? But it also is my authentic experience. I don't know, maybe this is getting too meta, but it has really gotten me thinking about the way we tell our stories, what happens after we tell our stories, what happens when our stories go in somebody else's hands, what happens after we die. I mean, God, the fact that they're dead obviously makes this even more strange, cryptic, sad. But I am really enjoying the show, and I would recommend it if you're looking for something kind of stupid, but kind of sweet and kind of nostalgic. I am enjoying it. I have not read Daryl Hannah. Daryl Hannah was the girlfriend of JFK Jr., and she is depicted in this show in like such an irritating way. They made her seem absolutely insufferable. And watching it, I didn't even think to check if she was alive. I think part of me watching the show, since JFK Jr. and Carolyn have sadly died, I think I just kind of assumed like everybody was dead, but they are not. And she wrote apparently a scathing op-ed in the Times about, like, I think the headline is like, I don't know how Love Story is getting away with this. And gosh, I feel for her to see yourself represented that way. I don't know, man. I will keep watching though. Are you guys watching anything that you're loving right now? There was a show that was recommended to me on my Instagram AMA the other week. It was called Hunting Wives show. Yeah, The Hunting Wives on Netflix. Sophie trades city life for East Texas and falls into a wealthy socialite's magnetic orbit where a clique of housewives hides deadly secrets. I've heard it's great. I've heard it's just like absolutely terrible actors. There's some queer love dynamics going on. Sexy, awful people, essentially, is what I heard. And that does sound like my vibe. It does sound like my vibe. What else did I want to tell you guys? This is not an ad, but it is a plug for this CBD THC product that I really like. These were sent to me. They're like relaxation, they're CBD gummies, but they do have a little bit of THC in it. I think is it like 10 to 1? So my previous favorite weed gummies were the Wild brand, WYLD, a strawberry flavor that was 20 to 1, like 20 CBD to 1 THC. That's around the combo that I like. I really don't like getting high anymore. I used to really like getting high. I really loved the feeling. It relaxed me. I had fun. But several years ago, when I accidentally took triple the amount of mushrooms that I was supposed to take, I don't know if I've told that story on the podcast. Years ago, before Brian and I moved to LA, actually, when we flew out to LA to look for places, we were staying in friends of ours at their house. They have like a really, really cool house in Santa Monica. They were away for the weekend. And we stayed in their little bungalow. And Brian and I were getting ready for dinner. We were rushing because we had just looked at like 10 houses that day. And we were going to be going to the opposite side of town. We were going all the way to Hollywood to meet newish friends for dinner. And I go open the fridge to have a little snack because I was fucking famished. And I like grab some carrots, and then I grab a piece of chocolate from the fridge. And I read the chocolate bar. To make sure there was no weed in it. But it was like a completely healthy looking label. It wasn't even a blank label. Like, it wasn't just in silver saran wrap. It looked like it was like a fancy Erewhon chocolate bar. No language at all that there were drugs in here. So I had two whole squares, which ends up, later we found out that like one whole square would be enough to get Brian like soaring into the sky. We start driving to dinner, and I feel like I'm having an anxiety attack. That's the feeling I have. Like, my heart is racing. What's going on? Brian's like, just drink some water. We've had a long day. And then we drove by some billboard, and I felt like my face was an accordion. I'm now freaking out. My hands are like, I'm looking at my hands like they're lava. We call our friend, and we find out that I have eaten mushrooms. And that experience, drugging yourself when you don't know that that's what you're doing, really fucks with you. It unfortunately, like, I've tried mushrooms a few times since. I've had fun once. A little bit of fun once, but I really didn't like it. Like, I just don't like it. I don't like feeling high anymore. I prefer being a little buzzed. I prefer being a little buzzed. However, I do love a CBD gummy, and I like it when there's a little bit of THC, but I'm very sensitive to the amount of THC. And this brand, it's called Cured. They did send me these. That's the disclaimer. But they're really, really good. I'm going to put the link in the description in case you like them. I've been taking it like I can eat one whole one and I just feel a little zen. There's no high head feeling for me. Of course, everybody's going to be affected differently. I think I have pretty low tolerance now, a lot. Like I would never have if I have a 5 milligram weed gummy, I will break it in half and it's like still a little too much for me. So maybe that's a good reference point. This just I kind of just felt like melted. I felt a little melted, but I could still totally function and talk and get up. It wasn't like totally blotto. So I'm going to link it for you. And if you want to purchase it, they did generously give us a code. It's hellohayes15, hellohayes15. I'll write all of that in the description. This is not an ad. I do believe that if you use my link and the code, sorry, why did I say might? If you use the code, oh my God, do I sound really nervous? Why do I sound so nervous? If you use the code, I get commission. I get a little bit of commission, but that's not why I'm telling you this, though it is a nice perk. I just really like this product. I didn't want to tell you about it until I had basically finished. I have two more gummies. Yeah. So I've done 8 of them. That's a sign that I like it and I will be repurchasing it for myself. They also have a sleep one and I think like a energy one. So I'd be curious about that. I just need to check to make sure that there's not too much THC because I really don't like it. That's all for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Can't wait to hear what you think about today's episode. I love you all and I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.